Hi everyone. Today I'll be presenting on social media's impact on consumers' perception and behavior, a case study on Russian business production post Russia-Ukraine war. I'll start off with my introduction. I'll talk about why I chose this topic. I'll move on to the role of social media in shaping consumer perception. I'll talk about social media usage, Western world versus Russia. I will explain how the public reacted to Russia's use of social media where the war is concerned. I will move on to consumer behavior towards Russian businesses pre and post invasion. I will then highlight the impact of consumer behavior on Russian business production. I will then conclude and show my references. Really quickly, war is a force that displaces children, destabilizes global economies, and brings widespread harm to life and well-being. During such geopolitical conflicts, the media stands as the primary source of information, shaping perceptions, influencing consumer behavior, and guiding opinions that can either support or undermine the productivity and profitability of businesses in affected regions. So why did I choose this topic? Well, it's important to note that social media promotes free communication and is a progressive part of consumers' day-to-day life, which is so important because businesses and nations need to know that public opinion plays a huge part when selling products, services, or narratives, which leads me to my next point, being social media can be weaponized to spread narratives, which is a very big issue, especially when this Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. Social media has the ability to influence consumer perceptions, behavior, and purchasing decisions. In fact, research says that 49% of consumers admit to turning to social media to make their purchasing decisions. So, in a world that is more digital and information led, companies or nations in this case need to be sure of the authenticity of their messages unless they can put their brand, reputation, nation, or the livelihood of others at risk. So, how does social media play a role in shaping consumer perception? Let's talk about social media versus traditional media. Research says that social media has hit almost 100% penetration of mobile cellular phones worldwide. This means that social media is more convenient, so it is easier to look on your phone and read the news rather than to go out and buy a newspaper or subscribe to a TV channel. Social media also has the ability to shift the power of brand communication, transforming it from it being solely company driven shared dialogue between business and consumers. Thirdly, social media creates and inspires community. This also has the ability to inspire public values and beliefs and shape consumer perception, behavior, and purchasing decisions. So let's talk about the social media usage from the Western world and Russia. Research says that there is a big difference between media usage in the Western world and in Russia, where in the Western world it is more independent, while in Russia it is more state-controlled. Though the author agrees that Western media can be heavily influenced, I can extrapolate that media marketing in general can be seen as a game of who is more influential. In the Western world where the war is concerned, social media is being used objectively. The Western world are using more covert methods, sending their journalists into Ukraine to accurately depict what is happening. Ukraine seeing this as being more strategic. They're taking advantage of the independency of social media in the Western world to tell their truth. While in Russia, it is more subjective, repetitive, and contradictory at times. For example, they claim that they invaded Ukraine as a defensive method against Ukraine and NATO, which is disinformation and disingenuous because Ukraine is not even in NATO. Ukraine has no ties to NATO and they have never had ties to NATO. So how does this play back on the public? First off, we have global condemnation and counter strategies. For example, the Canadian government brings out information formally condemning Russia and correcting deception. Secondly, social media takes measures of their own by limiting a lot of Russian media on their platforms. Lastly, we have public intentional awareness. Social media users have put the authenticity of information as their utmost priority, making sure to be well read so that all of them don't fall for the lies. So how was consumer behavior towards Russian businesses? Let's start with pre-invasion. Pre-invasion, Russian brands were integrated into global markets and international brands into Russian markets as it was represented in their GDP, which you can see on the screen. But after the invasion, international consumers boycotted Russian businesses. For example, 57% of Polish consumers avoided Russian brands amidst the invasion, and they started to support Ukrainian businesses, according to Statista. Secondly, domestic consumers had to shift their consumer preferences towards domestic brands due to the exit of international brands. An example is Ozempic's exit due to the invasion, so compulsory licenses were given to Russian pharma companies, which is the permission to copy Ozempic's drug. You can already imagine the problems that could cause along the line. So what was the impact of consumer behavior on Russian business production? Firstly, supply chain challenges. Due to the exit of huge companies responsible for the supply of raw materials and tech parts, Russian businesses experienced a hit in production, which dropped their imports and exports, as you can see on the screen. This led to the outsource of more domestic, rare, and expensive supplies, hiking the cost of production. This leads to a possible halt in business productions, which leads to my last point being constricted purchasing power. This is because people are not financially buoyant to spend as frivolously as they intended to. So in conclusion, you can see how Russia tried but failed to weaponize social media in order to create false narratives. Instead, it backfired onto Russian businesses, innocent people trying to make a living, causing the shutdown of small to medium businesses with little to no support or community from the Western world, according to research. In order to bring real change, social media and its direct impact on the mind, consumer perception, and behavior need to be studied by businesses and world leaders alike, unless, apart from social media messages, having the ability to engineer wars, innocent business owners and their families would have to defend themselves from the consequence of war they never even agreed to start, repeating history's cycle over again. Thank you for listening to me today, and I'll catch you in the next one. These are my references. Have a great day.